The crash landing. In the vast tapestry of the universe, Jake Thorne had always been a wanderer. An experienced explorer, he had devoted his life to traversing the unexplored realms of space, charting new territories, and unearthing secrets hidden among the stars. His ship, the Orion Light, was his steadfast companion, equipped with state-of-the-art technology and imbued with a spirit of adventure. Jake felt at home in the expanse of space, where the silence was profound, and the stars were a constant reminder of the mysteries that awaited him. But nothing could have prepared him for the harrowing journey that lay ahead. The mission began with promise. As Jake entered a newly discovered sector, his instruments buzzed with the thrill of potential discoveries. He felt the familiar rush of excitement coursing through him, a blend of anxiety and anticipation. This sector had been largely uncharted, and the chance to make significant finds invigorated him. Yet, as he navigated deeper into the unknown, an unanticipated surge of energy jolted his ship. The Orion Light shuddered violently, warning alarms blaring through the cockpit as lights flickered ominously. "Come on, stay with me," Jake muttered, fighting to regain control as the ship was pulled toward a nearby planet. His fingers danced over the controls, desperately trying to stabilize the systems, but it was futile. The gravitational pull was too strong, driving him closer to the planet's surface. Panic began to rise within him, but Jake's training kicked in. He initiated an emergency landing sequence, bracing for impact as the ship hurtled through the atmosphere. The landing was catastrophic. The Orion Light slammed into the rocky terrain, the force knocking the breath out of Jake's lungs. Metal groaned and creaked, a chilling soundtrack to the wreckage unfolding around him. When the ship finally came to a stop, Jake was momentarily disoriented, the chaos of the crash echoing in his mind. After a moment, he gathered himself, unfastening his harness and assessing the damage. The cockpit was dim, and the emergency lights cast an eerie glow over the controls. He was stranded. With his heart pounding in his chest, Jake grabbed his gear. A portable scanner and a sidearm, standard issue for explorers venturing into the unknown. He forced open the hatch, the metal screeching in protest. As he stepped out, he was met with a landscape that was both alien and haunting. The sky loomed overhead, painted in shades of deep purple, swirling clouds creating an ominous atmosphere. The ground was rugged, littered with jagged rocks and dry, cracked earth, while a biting wind carried an unsettling metallic scent. In the distance, he spotted the remnants of what appeared to be an ancient civilization, towering structures crumbled and forgotten, rising like the skeletal remains of giants. A shiver ran down his spine as he surveyed the desolation. This world was a graveyard of memories, a canvas of history painted with loss and abandonment. He activated his scanner, the device buzzing to life. The readings were strange. A faint, consistent energy signature emanated from the ruins, pulsating with an unsettling rhythm. Compelled by curiosity, Jake made his way toward the remnants of the civilization. Each step was cautious, the terrain treacherous beneath his feet. As he approached the ruins, a sense of foreboding enveloped him. The structures towered above, adorned with intricate carvings and symbols that hinted at a long-forgotten language. Jake felt a connection to the place, a whisper of its history calling out to him, urging him to uncover its secrets. He stepped into a grand hall, its roof partially collapsed, but still retaining an air of majesty. The coolness inside was a stark contrast to the harsh environment outside. As he moved deeper into the hall, he noticed a faint shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising from the ground. Intrigued, he moved closer, but the shimmer intensified, and before he could react, a force slammed into him, sending him crashing to the ground. Dazed, he looked up and gasped. Standing before him was an alien woman, tall and slender, her skin a soft, iridescent blue. Her eyes glowed with an inner light, shifting colors like the surface of a tranquil ocean. Jake instinctively reached for his sidearm, but she moved with incredible speed, flicking her wrist and sending the weapon skidding across the floor. Her voice was melodic yet firm, flowing in a language he didn't understand, but her posture conveyed a mixture of curiosity and caution. "I don't mean any harm," Jake shouted, his heart racing. "I'm just an explorer. My ship crashed, and I'm stranded here." The alien woman studied him intently, her expression softening slightly despite the tension in her posture. After a moment, she spoke again, this time more slowly, as if searching for the right words. "You are not from this world," she said, her accent thick yet melodic. "That's right. I'm from a planet called Earth," Jake replied, relieved that they could at least communicate. She tilted her head, absorbing this information. Then, glancing toward the fading sunlight outside, she sighed and extended her hand. "Come, it is not safe to stay here after dark." Jake hesitated, then accepted her hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong, radiating a warmth that sent a shiver down his spine. As she helped him to his feet, an unspoken understanding passed between them. They were both outcasts on this forsaken planet, and perhaps, together, they could survive. She led him through a maze of corridors and tunnels, the architecture becoming more intricate the deeper they ventured. Strange symbols adorned the walls, some emitting a faint glow. Jake's mind raced with questions, but he sensed that now was not the time to ask. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a large chamber hidden deep within the ruins. Inside, remnants of advanced technology lay scattered about, consoles and devices humming softly with power. In the center of the chamber was a pool of shimmering liquid, its surface perfectly still, reflecting the soft glow of the surrounding lights. The alien woman gestured for Jake to sit, and he complied, lowering himself onto a smooth stone bench. "I am Lyra," she said, breaking the silence. "I was stranded here many years ago, the last of my kind on this world." "Jake Thorne," he replied, intrigued. "I guess that makes two of us stranded now." Lyra's expression turned serious, a hint of sadness flickering in her eyes. "This planet was once a thriving world, home to my people, the Alara. We were masters of technology and nature, but we grew too ambitious, and our hubris led to our downfall." Jake leaned forward, captivated. "What happened?" Lyra hesitated, her gaze distant. "We attempted to harness a power far beyond our control, a source of energy that could have sustained us for millennia. But we were not prepared for the consequences. The energy spiraled out of control, devastating the planet. Most of my people perished, and those who survived sought refuge elsewhere in the galaxy. I remained behind to guard what was left." Jake felt a pang of empathy, imagining the loss and pain Lyra must have experienced. "I'm sorry," he said softly. Lyra met his gaze, her expression resolute. "It was our own doing. But now, perhaps you and I can help each other. This world is dangerous, especially for someone unfamiliar with its ways. If you are to survive, you will need my knowledge." Jake nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "And in return, I can help you. Together, we might find a way off this planet, or at least make it livable again." A small smile tugged at the corners of Lyra's lips. "Perhaps, but first, you must rest. The night here is long and unforgiving." Exhaustion settled over Jake like a heavy blanket. Lyra led him to a small alcove where a makeshift bed had been prepared. As he lay down, the events of the day swirled in his mind. He felt a strange sense of hope in the midst of despair. Stranded on a forgotten world, surrounded by dangers he couldn't yet comprehend, he wasn't alone. As sleep began to overtake him, Jake dreamed of new beginnings. He was unaware of the challenges and discoveries awaiting him in the days to come, but deep down, he felt that together, he and Lyra would face whatever lay ahead. They would illuminate the darkness of this abandoned planet, breathing life back into its ruins, and perhaps even unearth the secrets of a lost civilization. As the night settled around them, Jake closed his eyes, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited him in this strange new world. The awakening of secrets. Morning light filtered through the cracks of the ancient stone, casting ethereal patterns on the chamber floor where Jake lay. Slowly he blinked awake, feeling the weight of the previous day's events pressing on his mind. The realization of his surroundings, the alien world, the strange woman, the looming ruins, washed over him like a cold wave. He sat up, the remnants of sleep fading as he rubbed the grit from his eyes. Lyra was already awake, her silhouette framed against the shimmering pool at the center of the chamber. She sat cross-legged on the floor, her silver hair cascading down her back, glowing softly in the ambient light. The peacefulness of the scene calmed Jake's racing thoughts. "Good morning, Jake," Lyra said, her voice melodic, resonating with the quiet of the ancient place. "I hope you slept well." "Better than I expected," Jake replied, swinging his legs over the side of the makeshift bed. "What's our plan for today?" Lyra stood, her demeanor shifting to one of purpose. "We need to assess the remnants of my people's technology. If we can reactivate some of their systems, we might find a way to tap into the energy source that remains here. It may offer us the power we need to either fix your ship or create a shelter that can protect us from the dangers of this world." Jake nodded, adrenaline surging through him at the thought of action. "Let's get to work then." As they moved deeper into the ruins, Jake marveled at the architecture surrounding him. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, their meanings long lost to time. Strange luminescent symbols pulsated gently, filling the air with an otherworldly glow. He felt a connection to this place, an echo of the lives once lived here, their hopes and dreams etched into the very fabric of the ruins. Lyra led him through a series of corridors, her fingers lightly brushing against the carvings, as if seeking guidance from the past. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, each step drawing them closer to the heart of the lost civilization. They finally entered a vast chamber, its size overwhelming. The ceiling arched high above them, supported by columns that seemed to stretch into infinity. In the center stood a massive console, its surface covered in dust and debris, yet still humming with latent power. Lyra approached it, her expression a mix of determination and nostalgia. "This is the main control hub," she explained. "It was designed to monitor and regulate the energy we harnessed. If we can bring it back online, we may be able to access the energy core." Jake knelt beside her, wiping away layers of dust to reveal a series of glowing panels. The console was intricate, filled with symbols that looked both familiar and alien. "How do we start?" he asked. Lyra examined the console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We need to power it up, but first, I must check the auxiliary systems. There might be a backup power source that can help us." She motioned for Jake to help her, and together they searched the chamber for any signs of dormant technology. Jake noticed a small panel on the wall, partially hidden by debris. With a quick push, he cleared the area, revealing a dusty control unit. "This looks promising," he said, his heart racing with the prospect of discovery. Lyra knelt beside him, her fingers dancing across the controls with a fluidity that mesmerized him. "Let's see if it still holds power," she murmured, activating the unit. The panel flickered to life, casting a warm glow across their faces. With a low hum, the console sprang to life. Jake felt a surge of excitement as the display began to show readings and diagnostics. "It's working," he exclaimed, unable to hide his enthusiasm. Lyra smiled, her eyes brightening. "Now we need to redirect the power to the main console. If we can do this, we may unlock the secrets of this place." As they worked together, a synergy formed between them. Jake's hands moved with confidence, fueled by his exploration experience, while Lyra guided him with her intimate knowledge of the technology. They navigated through a series of complex sequences, laughter mingling with their focused concentration as they shared ideas and strategies. Suddenly, an alarm blared, startling them. Red lights flashed across the chamber, and a series of warning symbols danced on the console. Jake's heart dropped. "What did we do?" "Nothing, I think," Lyra replied, her tone calm but urgent. "The systems may be unstable. We must act quickly." They worked feverishly, Lyra directing Jake on which sequences to follow. The air crackled with tension, and Jake's mind raced. The stakes had never felt higher. Almost there, Lara urged, her fingers flying across the controls. Jake took a deep breath, focusing on the rhythm of their actions. Finally, with one last sequence input, the alarm ceased, and the lights shifted from red to a soft blue, illuminating the chamber in a serene glow. The console displayed a message: "System online. Access granted." Jake and Lyra exchanged triumphant glances, relief washing over them. "We did it," Jake shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. "Yes, but this is only the beginning," Lyra said, her expression serious once more. "Now we can access the energy core." With renewed purpose, they moved to the center of the chamber, where the heart of the technology pulsated with energy. A massive cylindrical structure stood before them, bathed in blue light, its surface thrumming with power. "Be careful," Lyra cautioned, her voice barely above a whisper. "This energy is potent. We need to proceed with caution." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "What do we need to do?" "We must align the conduits," Lyra explained, gesturing to a series of connectors snaking from the energy core to the control hub. "If we can synchronize them, we can stabilize the energy output and possibly redirect some of it to your ship." Jake stepped closer, drawn in by the pulsing light. "Let's do it." They began the intricate process of aligning the conduits, following Lyra's directions as they moved between the console and the energy core. With each connection they made, the hum of the room intensified, vibrating through their bodies. As they worked, Jake felt a growing sense of connection, not just with Lyra, but with the history of this place. He could almost hear the whispers of the Alara, their hopes and dreams resonating within the walls. He was part of something greater now, a bridge between their past and his present. Just as they completed the final connection, a surge of energy shot through the room, illuminating everything in brilliant light. The energy core flared, and Jake staggered back, his heart racing. "Is it supposed to do that?" "Yes," Lyra shouted, her eyes wide with excitement. "We've reactivated the energy flow." As the light dimmed, they stood together, the power of the ancient civilization coursing through the room. The air was thick with energy, and Jake felt a sense of triumph wash over him. But the victory was short-lived. The chamber began to tremble, the walls vibrating ominously. "We need to stabilize it," Lyra cried, her voice laced with urgency. Jake's heart raced as he looked at the readings on the console. "How?" "Redirect the excess energy," Lyra commanded. "We can use the control systems to regulate it before it becomes too unstable." They leaped into action, fingers flying across the controls. Jake felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. They had come too far to fail now. With one final adjustment, the readings stabilized, and the tremors ceased. The chamber fell silent, the energy core settling into a gentle hum. Jake exhaled, his body shaking with adrenaline. "We did it," he whispered, disbelief flooding his senses. Lyra turned to him, a mixture of relief and pride in her eyes. "Together, we have awakened the heart of this place, but we must remain vigilant. This power is a double-edged sword, and we are only beginning to understand its implications." Jake nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. They had uncovered a wellspring of potential, and with it came the promise of a new future, not just for themselves, but for the remnants of Lyra's civilization as well. As they stood amidst the ruins, a sense of hope began to bloom in Jake's heart. Together, they had forged an alliance, bridging the gap between their worlds. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges and mysteries, but they would face it together. And somewhere deep within the heart of the abandoned planet, the whispers of the Alara grew louder, urging them forward into the unknown. The search for answers. With the energy core stabilized and the ancient control systems humming with renewed life, Jake and Lyra stood at the threshold of a new beginning. The remnants of the Alara civilization surrounded them, their technology flickering with latent potential, waiting for the right hands to unlock its secrets. Jake felt a swell of excitement as he contemplated the possibilities. This was more than just survival. It was an opportunity to revive a lost culture and perhaps even chart a path back to his own world. Now that we've stabilized the core, what's our next step? Jake asked, his voice echoing softly in the expansive chamber. Lyra looked thoughtful, her eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the energy core. We need to learn more about the energy source itself. If we can understand how it was harnessed and why it became unstable, we may be able to prevent a disaster and use its power to benefit us. Right, Jake replied, his mind racing. So we need to find records, any data logs or information left behind by your people. Yes, Lyra said, her expression sharpening with determination. There should be archives somewhere within the ruins, libraries or databanks that hold the knowledge of my civilization. If we can access them, we might uncover the information we need. Eager to dive deeper into the mystery, they set off through the labyrinthine corridors of the ruins, guided by Lyra's intuition and the faint hum of the power coursing through the ancient technology. The atmosphere was thick with history, the air buzzing with possibilities as they ventured further into the heart of the abandoned civilization. As they navigated the winding passages, Jake's senses were heightened. He took in the strange symbols etched into the walls, some flickering with light, while others seemed to pulse rhythmically as if breathing. What do these symbols mean? He asked, gesturing toward a particularly intricate carving. They tell our history, Lyra replied, her voice a soft whisper. Each symbol represents a significant event, a lesson learned. They are warnings and wisdom for those who come after us. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. It's like they were trying to communicate with the future. Exactly, Lyra affirmed. They knew the risks of the energy we sought to harness, and they left these messages as a guide. After what felt like hours of exploring, they'd finally reached a large chamber, its entrance flanked by colossal stone pillars. As they stepped inside, Jake's breath caught in his throat. The room was vast, filled with rows of glowing consoles and intricate machines. In the center stood a massive archive, a structure resembling a tree with branches extending outward, each branch adorned with glowing orbs, data storage devices, he realized. This is it, Lyra breathed, her eyes wide with awe. The archive of knowledge. Here, we may find everything we need to understand what went wrong. Jake approached the central structure, his heart racing. How do we access it? Lyra examined the base of the archive, her fingers tracing the carvings that adorned it. There should be a way to interface with it, but we will need to connect the control systems we activated earlier. With determination, they worked to establish a connection between the archive and the main control hub. Jake felt a surge of energy as they powered up the archive, the orbs lighting up one by one, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the chamber. As the final orb ignited, a holographic display erupted from the archive, filling the room with vibrant images and data streams. Jake stepped back, captivated by the spectacle unfolding before him. Lyra's eyes shimmered with hope. Let's see what knowledge lies within, she said, moving closer to the display. The holographic images flickered, revealing scenes of the Elara civilization at its peak. Jake watched in awe as vibrant cities buzzed with life, advanced technologies in use, and the Elara people thriving in harmony with their environment. But then the imagery shifted, showing darker scenes of chaos, machines exploding, the ground cracking open, and the once thriving cities reduced to ruins. This is what happened, Lyra said, her voice heavy with emotion. We pushed too far, trying to control a force beyond our comprehension. Jake felt a pang of sympathy for her people. It's a cautionary tale for us all. We have to learn from their mistakes. As they sifted through the data, they discovered detailed records of the energy source. The Elara had unearthed a powerful element, one that was deeply embedded within the planet. It held the potential to fuel their civilization indefinitely, but it also possessed an unpredictable nature. Lyra pointed to a section of the data. Here, it explains the processes they developed to harness the energy. They created machines to extract it, but as their needs grew, so did the instability. Jake absorbed the information, his mind racing with the implications. If we can find a way to stabilize it without overexerting the systems, we might be able to use it to power my ship or create a sustainable habitat for ourselves. Yes, Lyra replied, a spark of enthusiasm igniting in her eyes. But it will require careful planning and an understanding of the technology they left behind. With newfound determination, they delved deeper into the archives, poring over blueprints, operational manuals, and historical accounts. The knowledge was overwhelming, yet thrilling, each piece of information a stepping stone toward understanding the catastrophic events that had transpired. Hours passed as they sifted through the data, Laura translating and explaining, while Jake made notes, sketching diagrams and ideas. The bond between them deepened with each revelation, a shared mission uniting their disparate worlds. Finally, they stumbled upon a critical piece of information, a blueprint for a stabilization device, one that could be adapted to control the energy fluctuations. Laura's eyes sparkled with excitement as she studied the design. If we can recreate this device, it could give us the control we need. Jake grinned, his heart racing. Then let's do it. We can use the materials from the ruins. As they left the archive, purpose filled their hearts. They made their way back to the central chamber, where the energy core pulsated steadily. Jake's mind buzzed with plans, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. He was not just fighting for his survival, but for Lyra and the legacy of her people. We'll need to gather resources, Jake said as they reached the core. We'll need metal, components, anything we can salvage from the ruins. Lyra nodded, her expression resolute. We should split up to cover more ground. I'll search the eastern section of the ruins. You can check the western side. Let's meet back here in a couple of hours. Got it, Jake replied, feeling the thrill of adventure coursing through him. Be careful. And you, Laura said, her eyes locking onto his, a hint of concern flickering within. This place can be unpredictable. With a nod, they set off in their respective directions, hearts pounding with anticipation. As Jake ventured through the ruins, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. Shadows danced at the edges of his vision, and the whispers of the past seemed to echo in the silence. He explored the western section of the ruins, each step revealing more remnants of the once thriving civilization. The air was thick with dust, and the faint hum of the energy core resonated in the background. He collected scraps of metal, wires, and components, all while searching for anything that might aid in their goal. As he worked, Jake couldn't help but ponder the connection he felt with Lyra. They were from different worlds, yet they shared a common purpose. He thought about her strength and resilience, qualities that reminded him of humanity's own struggles. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the ruins, causing the ground to tremble beneath his feet. Jake's heart raced as he instinctively crouched, looking around for the source of the disturbance. Dust cascaded from the ceilings, and a sense of urgency washed over him. He needed to find Lyra and ensure she was safe. He hurried back through the corridors, the tremors growing stronger with each step. Lyra, he called, his voice echoing through the empty halls. Lyra, where are you? As he approached the central chamber, the tremors intensified, and he felt a wave of panic rise within him. Lyra, he shouted again, fear gripping his heart. Finally, he spotted her at the entrance of the chamber, her expression alarmed. Jake, we need to go, now. What's happening? He asked, rushing to her side. The energy core is becoming unstable, she shouted over the din. We need to get out before it goes critical. Jake nodded, adrenaline surging through him. They sprinted back through the corridors, navigating the twisting passages as the tremors grew more violent. The ruins shook around them, dust and debris raining from the ceilings. Just as they reached the exit, a loud crash echoed behind them, and the ground beneath their feet gave way. Jake grabbed Laura's arm, pulling her close as they barely escaped the collapsing structure. They tumbled out into the open air, gasping for breath as they landed on the rocky ground outside. Panting, They scrambled to their feet and looked back at the ruins. The once majestic structure was now shrouded in dust and debris, the energy core's unstable power threatening to bring down everything around it. "We need to regroup and figure out our next move," Jake said, his voice steadying as he caught his breath. "We can't let this place swallow us whole." Lyra nodded, her expression grave but resolute. "We must stabilize the core, or this planet will be lost along with us." With determination ignited within them, they began to devise a plan. They would harness the knowledge they had gained, reclaim the power of the Alara, and forge a new future together. The challenges ahead were daunting, but they were no longer just survivors. They were allies, united in purpose and driven by a shared destiny. As they stood on the edge of the ruins, staring into the unknown, Jake knew one thing for certain. Together, they would face whatever trials awaited them, harnessing the strength of their connection to overcome the obstacles in their path. Echoes of the past. The dust from the collapsing ruins swirled around Jake and Lyra as they caught their breath, their hearts pounding in unison. The danger they had narrowly escaped loomed large in their minds, but the urgency of their mission pushed them to focus on the next steps. They had awakened the power of the ancient civilization, but now they needed to control it before it consumed everything around them. "Where do we begin?" Jake asked, his eyes scanning the debris-strewn ground for anything useful. "We have to stabilize the energy core, but we can't risk another collapse." Lyra's gaze was fixed on the horizon, her brow furrowed in thought. "We need to gather more resources, especially the materials for the stabilization device. The blueprints we found detail how to construct it, but we need the right components to make it functional." Jake nodded, the adrenaline still coursing through him. "We should head back to the archive. There might be more information there that can help us. Other devices or technology we can salvage." "Agreed," Lyra replied, her tone resolute. "We'll need to be cautious. The ruins are unstable, but we can't afford to waste time. If the core goes critical, we'll have no chance of escape." Together, they made their way back toward the entrance of the ruins, their senses heightened as they navigated through the scattered debris. The structure groaned ominously around them, but a sense of determination fueled their steps. Once inside, they moved carefully through the halls, the remnants of the ancient civilization whispering stories of its past. Jake felt a strange connection to the place, as if the spirits of the Alara were guiding them, urging them to uncover the truth behind their downfall. As they reached the archive, the air buzzed with energy, remnants of the power they had awakened still palpable in the atmosphere. The holographic display from earlier flickered gently, casting soft shadows across the walls. "Let's see what else we can find," Jake said, stepping forward to interact with the archive. Lyra joined him, and together they activated the holographic interface once more. The images burst to life, showcasing more of the Alara civilization. They watched scenes unfold, children playing, families thriving, and the skies filled with their advanced ships soaring gracefully through the air. But the joy was short-lived as the display shifted again, depicting the darker moments of their history. Machines whirred ominously, energy surging out of control, and cities crumbling under the weight of their own ambition. The once vibrant images turned to chaos, and Jake felt a sense of dread wash over him. "This is a warning," Lyra murmured, her voice heavy with sorrow. "We must learn from their mistakes." Jake nodded, the gravity of their task sinking in. "We can't let that happen to us. We have to find a way to control this energy, to harness it for good." They continued to sift through the data, searching for anything that might offer insights into the Alara's downfall. As they dug deeper, they uncovered logs from the final days of the civilization, panic-stricken messages detailing the increasing instability of their energy core. Jake felt his heart race as he realized the parallels to their current situation. "We need to develop a failsafe," he said, urgency lacing his words. "If we can create a way to shut down the core in case of an emergency, we might prevent a disaster." Laura's eyes lit up with understanding. "Yes, there are notes here about emergency protocols. If we can recreate those systems, we can build safeguards into the stabilization device. As they worked, they gathered blueprints and technical data, mapping out their plans. Jake felt a sense of excitement building within him, fueled by the knowledge that they were piecing together the remnants of the past to forge a new future. The legacy of the Alara would not be lost. They would honor it by learning from it. Hours passed as they strategized, but the tension in the air remained palpable. The tremors outside served as a constant reminder of the precariousness of their situation. Jake glanced at Lyra, noting the determination etched on her face. "Are you okay?" he asked, concerned about the toll the situation might be taking on her. Lyra paused, her eyes thoughtful. "It's just, sometimes I feel overwhelmed. My people had such potential, and to see it all lost, it's painful. But I know we have a chance to do better." Jake nodded, understanding the weight she carried. "We're going to do this, Lyra. Together, we'll find a way to harness this energy safely and rebuild." With renewed determination, they finalized their plans and prepared to gather the necessary materials. They knew the task ahead would not be easy, but they had come too far to turn back now. As they ventured back into the ruins, Jake felt a sense of purpose guiding him. The darkness of the past would not define their future. They would take the lessons learned and forge a new path together. The very air seemed to shimmer with potential, the remnants of the Alara civilization resonating around them. The deeper they went, the more intricate the technology became. Jake was mesmerized by the designs, the beauty of the machinery a testament to the craftsmanship of the Alara. They collected scraps of metal, wires, and components, every piece a vital part of their plan. Suddenly, as they were rummaging through a section filled with collapsed structures, Jake stumbled upon an unusual artifact, a small, orb-like device, glowing faintly. He picked it up, intrigued. "What do you think this is?" he asked, turning it over in his hands. Lyra approached, her eyes widening in recognition. "That's a power regulator. We use them to manage energy flow in our systems. If we can repair it, it could be invaluable for our stabilization device." Excitement surged within Jake. "Let's take it back to the archive and see if we can get it working." They hurried back, carefully stowing the device in Jake's pack. Once inside the archive, they set to work, examining the power regulator. Lyra studied the device, her fingers deftly maneuvering around the intricacies. "Fortunately, the design is still intact," she said, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We just need to recalibrate it and sync it with the stabilization device." Jake helped as best he could, holding the regulator steady while Lyra worked her magic. The hum of energy surrounded them, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. As they connected wires and recalibrated settings, Jake felt a connection growing between them, a shared sense of purpose that transcended their differences. After what felt like an eternity, Lyra stepped back, her expression triumphant. "It's done. We've repaired the power regulator." Jake beamed with pride. "That's fantastic. Now we can integrate it into our stabilization device." As they prepared to construct the device, a sense of urgency flooded Jake's thoughts. "We need to hurry. I can feel the tension building in the air, and we don't know how long the core will remain stable." "Yes," Lyra agreed, her eyes reflecting the determination of her people's legacy. "Let's make this count." Together, they gathered their materials and set to work. The blueprint they had uncovered guided them as they pieced together the stabilization device, each connection a testament to their resolve. With every adjustment, they felt the echoes of the past resonating in their actions, an honor to the Alara civilization and a commitment to a brighter future. Finally, after hours of intense focus, they stepped back to admire their creation. The stabilization device stood before them, a culmination of their efforts and a bridge between their worlds. "We did it," Jake breathed, awe washing over him. Lyra's eyes sparkled with pride. "Now we must activate it and connect it to the core, but we have to be cautious. This is where the real challenge begins." Jake nodded, adrenaline surging as they prepared for the next step, the fate of their mission, and perhaps their very lives, depended on the success of this moment. As they moved toward the energy core, the air crackled with anticipation. They connected the stabilization device to the core, feeling the pulse of power coursing through the room. "Here we go," Laura said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. With a deep breath, Jake initiated the activation sequence. The device whirred to life, lights flickering as energy began to flow. They watched in awe as the stabilization device started to regulate the core's output, the chaotic fluctuations settling into a steady hum. But then, without warning, the core flared brightly, the vibrations intensifying. Jake's heart raced as he exchanged a worried glance with Lyra. "What's happening?" "The energy is still too volatile," Lyra shouted, her voice barely audible over the roaring power. "We need to adjust the output." In a panic, they rushed to the controls of the stabilization device, working furiously to keep the energy in check. The room shook as the core pulsed, the sound of its power reverberating in their bones. "Keep it steady," Jake urged, his hands flying across the controls. "We can do this." Lyra focused intently, her face set in determination. "Just a little more adjustment. We're almost there." With a final push, they managed to stabilize the output, the core calming as the energy settled into a steady rhythm. The vibrations ceased, and a profound silence enveloped the room, the only sound the gentle hum of their creation. "We did it," Jake exclaimed, relief flooding over him. Lyra laughed, a sound filled with joy and disbelief. "We actually did it. We stabilized the core." As they stood together, the weight of their accomplishments settled in. They had not only survived the dangers of the ruins, but had also uncovered the secrets of the Elara civilization. With this newfound power, they could change the course of their destinies. But in the back of Jake's mind lingered a thought. They had awakened the past, and with it, the echoes of the Elara would guide their next steps. They were destined to face challenges that would test their resolve, but together, they would forge a path through the unknown. As the sun began to set on the horizon, casting golden rays across the landscape, Jake felt a spark of hope ignite within him. They were no longer mere survivors. They were pioneers, ready to embrace the future and the challenges that lay ahead. Unforeseen consequences. With the energy cores stabilized and their bonds strengthened through shared challenges, Jake and Lyra stood at the precipice of possibility. The shimmering glow of the stabilization device filled the chamber with a sense of renewed hope. Yet, amidst the celebration of their success, a nagging worry lingered in Jake's mind. "How long can we keep this up?" he asked, glancing at the humming core. "The Elara faced catastrophic failures and were dealing with forces we barely understand. What if we made a mistake?" Lyra's gaze flickered to the energy core, her brow furrowing in thought. "You're right. We must remain vigilant. The energy here is powerful, but it is also unpredictable. We can't afford complacency." Determined to explore their newfound strength, they set about conducting further tests on the stabilization device, running simulations, and monitoring the core's energy output. As they gathered data, Jake was struck by the beauty of the technology that surrounded them, the glowing symbols, the intricate machinery, and the sense of history embedded in every corner of the ruins. This was more than just a relic of the past. It was a testament to the ingenuity of the Elara, and now it held the key to their survival. Over the next few days, they established a routine, working together to maintain the stabilization device while exploring the deeper recesses of the ruins. They combed through the archives, searching for anything that might help them understand the energy source further. One afternoon, while sifting through a dusty alcove, Lyra unearthed a series of holographic data logs, their contents crackling to life as she activated them. The images flickered, displaying the Elara in various stages of their technological advancements, early experiments, successful harnessing of energy, and ultimately, the catastrophic failures. "Look," Lyra said, pointing at the images. "This log details the last attempts to stabilize the energy core before the disaster struck." Jake watched intently as the hologram displayed frantic engineers working on the energy core, their faces etched with worry. The footage depicted the core's energy fluctuating wildly, machines sparking, and alarms blaring. "They were desperate," he murmured. "It's just like what we experienced." "Yes," Lyra replied, her voice tinged with sadness. "They thought they could control the power, but it spiraled out of their grasp. We must learn from their failures, or we risk repeating history." As the days turned into weeks, they developed a profound understanding of the technology, discovering blueprints for devices that could enhance their energy management systems. Lyra's knowledge of her people's technology proved invaluable, while Jake's experience as an explorer helped them navigate the complexities. However, as they delved deeper into their work, they began to notice strange occurrences. The ground shook intermittently, and vibrations reverberated through the ruins. Each tremor sent a ripple of unease through Jake, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a fine line. One evening, while they were monitoring the stabilization device, the vibrations intensified. Alarms blared throughout the chamber, and Jake's heart raced. "What's happening?" he shouted over the noise. Lyra's fingers flew across the console. "The energy output is fluctuating. We need to stabilize it again." As they scrambled to regain control, the core's light flickered ominously. Jake's mind raced as he struggled to focus. "Can we redirect some energy to relieve the pressure?" "Yes, but we have to act quickly," Lyra cried, her voice filled with urgency. They worked in a frenzy, trying to maintain their composure as the core throbbed with erratic energy. Just as Jake thought they had regained control, a powerful surge erupted from the core, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The room shook violently, and Jake was thrown against the wall, pain radiating through his body. "Lyra," he yelled, struggling to stand. He spotted her across the room, desperately working the controls as the core pulsed dangerously. "I'm okay," she shouted, determination etched on her face. "We need to re-establish the balance before it overloads." With gritted teeth, Jake pushed himself off the ground and lunged for the console. Together, they fought against the overwhelming energy, their minds racing as they coordinated their efforts. "If we can redistribute the excess energy through the stabilization device, we might be able to lessen the pressure," he proposed, his heart pounding. "Yes, do it," Lyra urged, her eyes locked on the readings. With every ounce of strength, they redirected the energy, watching as the core began to stabilize. The alarms dimmed, and the tremors subsided. They exchanged a breathless look, the gravity of their narrow escape sinking in. "Jake, we can't keep pushing our luck like this," Lyra said, her voice shaking slightly. "If we don't find a permanent solution soon, we may lose control completely." "I know," Jake replied, running a hand through his hair. "We need to dig deeper into the Alara's records. There has to be something that can help us." They returned to the archives, searching for any clues or ancient wisdom that could guide them. As they combed through the holographic logs, they stumbled upon a series of experiments that the Alara conducted after the initial stabilization failures. One log caught Jake's attention, a particularly detailed account of a last-ditch effort to harness the energy safely. "Lyra, look at this," he exclaimed, pulling up the data. Lyra leaned closer, her eyes widening. This details a dual-system approach, using a secondary device to act as a buffer to absorb excess energy before it reaches the core. Jake's heart raced. If we can build this secondary device, it might give us the control we need to manage the fluctuations. "Yes," Lyra replied, her excitement palpable. "We'll need to gather materials to construct it, but this could be our breakthrough." With newfound energy, they set to work, gathering components and sketching out designs for the buffer device. Each piece felt like a step closer to solving the mystery of the energy core and securing their survival. However, the ground trembled more frequently now, the vibrations growing more pronounced. Each tremor echoed the urgency of their task, a constant reminder of the precariousness of their situation. One night, as they worked late in the central chamber, A sudden jolt rocked the building, causing dust and debris to rain down. Jake glanced at Lyra, worry etched on her face. "We need to be cautious," she said. "These vibrations are increasing." "I know," Jake replied, feeling a knot form in his stomach. "But we can't let fear dictate our actions. We have to finish this device." They worked through the night, driven by the urgency of their mission and the hope that lay ahead. As dawn broke over the horizon, they finally stood before the completed buffer device, a marvel of engineering and collaboration. "Now we just need to connect it to the core and see if it works," Jake said, excitement bubbling within him. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "Let's do this carefully. We don't want to risk another overload." Together, they positioned the buffer device near the energy core, their hearts racing as they prepared to connect the systems. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline as he initiated the connection sequence, the lights on the devices flickering to life. "Here we go," he said, his voice steady but filled with anticipation. As the systems linked, the buffer device absorbed the excess energy from the core, stabilizing the output. For a moment, everything was silent, and Jake held his breath, waiting for a sign of success. Suddenly, the core surged, and alarms began to blare again. "No," Lyra cried, panic seeping into her voice. "It's not working." "Adjust the parameters," Jake shouted, scrambling to reroute energy flow. They fought against the chaos, their fingers flying across the controls as the core pulsed dangerously. Just as Jake thought all was lost, he made a final adjustment, redirecting the excess energy into the buffer device. The alarms ceased, and the room fell silent once more. Slowly, the core's light dimmed to a steady glow, the energy stabilizing as the buffer device worked to absorb the fluctuations. Jake and Lyra exchanged a breathless look, disbelief flooding over them. "We did it!" Jake exclaimed, a wave of relief washing over him. "Yes, but we need to monitor it closely," Lyra replied, her eyes reflecting a mix of joy and caution. "We can't let our guard down." As they settled into a new routine, Jake felt a sense of unity growing between them. They had faced unimaginable challenges, yet they emerged stronger, armed with knowledge and determination. Together, they were uncovering the secrets of the past while forging a path toward the future. But even as they celebrated their success, a sense of unease lingered in Jake's mind. The energy core, while stabilized for now, was still a volatile force. They had to remain vigilant, for the echoes of the Alaris past warned them of the dangers that lay ahead. In the days that followed, they continued their work, conducting tests and monitoring the energy output. The buffer device performed admirably, absorbing excess energy and providing them with a sense of security. But with each passing day, the ground trembled more frequently, and the tension in the air grew thicker. Then one fateful morning, as they reviewed the data logs, a loud rumble echoed through the ruins, shaking the very foundations. Jake and Lyra exchanged alarmed glances as the alarms blared once more. "We need to evacuate," Lyra shouted, her voice barely audible over the din. Jake nodded, his heart racing. "To the surface. We need to get out of here." They raced through the corridors, the vibrations intensifying as they navigated the collapsing ruins. Dust and debris rained down around them, and Jake's mind raced with thoughts of their work, the knowledge they had gained, the hope they had built. Just as they reached the exit, a massive tremor shook the ground, and a large section of the ceiling above them began to crumble. "Lyra, run," Jake shouted, grabbing her hand as they sprinted outside, barely escaping the debris that cascaded behind them. As they burst into the open air, they looked back at the ruins, which now loomed ominously in the distance. The structure shook violently, and with a deafening roar, part of the building collapsed, sending a cloud of dust and rubble into the sky. Jake's heart sank as he realized the gravity of their situation. They had awakened something powerful, and now they were facing the consequences. "We have to find shelter," he urged, his eyes scanning the horizon for a safe place. Lyra nodded, her face pale but resolute. "There's a cave system nearby. We can seek refuge there until the tremors subside." Together, they sprinted toward the cave entrance, the ground quaking beneath their feet. As they reached the mouth of the cave, they slipped inside, grateful for the protection it provided. Once inside, they paused to catch their breath, leaning against the cool stone walls. Jake's mind raced as he processed everything that had just happened. "We need to regroup," he said, his voice steadying. "We can't let this defeat us." Lyra nodded, her determination shining through her fear. "We'll figure this out. We'll learn from what happened and adapt." In the dim light of the cave, they began to strategize, pooling their knowledge and experience to find a way forward. They had faced adversity together, and now they would rise to meet the challenges ahead, armed with the lessons of the past and the strength of their alliance. As they settled in for the night, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. The echoes of the Elara civilization resonated around them, urging them to explore the unknown and embrace the journey ahead. Together, they would confront the shadows of the past and illuminate a new path, one forged by their resilience and ingenuity. The future lay before them, filled with possibilities, and Jake knew that with Lyra by his side, they could face whatever awaited them in the depths of the cave and beyond.